My name's Rachel McLeod, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the second anxiety elimination skill to build and how to build it. So, this is going to be a training video. There we go. And I'm going to train you how to do this. And so you can try this out yourself if you so choose. I'm going to give you the guidelines so that you can stay safe while you're doing this, and that you get an insight what it is I help people do and why it works, and so you can try it yourself and eliminate the symptoms that you're ready to eliminate. So I'm going to turn my heater off. Okay, and so I want to dive in with this. So yesterday, and I'm going to keep doing this for a little bit because there's so many skills and they come in layers, and I want to pull the curtain back and show you how to do this. Um, and so, but yesterday I talked about how to help your brain in the moment when it needs it. And we talked about how that was a superficial skill, but necessary and important and helpful, and how to do that, when to do that, and how to integrate that, and how to build that skill so that you can fall back on it whenever you need to, and to start that work because it builds your skills in using the intervention, and it really helps with building your awareness, what's going on, tuning into your brain. There's so many things it helps to do. And so if you haven't watched that yet, I encourage you to go ahead and watch that and build that skill and practice. Okay, so that's that one. And so if you have already started that, you will notice that your survival system is cooling off. And it's like that first one, I like to use it because there's such a, like, when I get people in my world, usually their anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder is so at large, it's almost like there's a forest and there's fog all over it. So you know the forest is in there, and all those trees are like problem trees. I love trees, but this is such a great example that I have to use them for this. But it's like looking at a forest that's covered in fog, and so you really can't see what you need to do, and you can't see the work that needs to take place, or just get a feel for the amount of it. Is it like 4 layers deep? Is it like, just, is it, what's going on with the forest with all these symptoms? And so I start people on the skill I talked about yesterday, and that, what that does is it takes all the fog out. And now we're looking at individual trees, and we're looking at the problem, and we're starting to develop a game plan how we're going to do that. And so the next thing, the second skill that I have them build, is how the skill to work through events. Painful events that have happened in the past or present or future. Now, if you just heard me and you heard me say we're going to go do past traumatic events, number one, yes, I did say that. And two, there's some rules here. And I want you to keep listening. I'm not going to make you go anywhere that you don't want to go and that you're not ready to go. And as a matter of fact, if you're doing this, we know that you're not supposed to go somewhere, because that's your body letting you know, hey, we won't survive if we do that. And we want to respect that, because we're teaming up with your body. We're teaming up with your mind. We're teaming up. We're not pushing through anything. We're not making it do something. That's how trauma happens. And we're not going to get out of trauma the same way we got into trauma. It's not going to work like that. Okay? But this is a very important skill. I'm going to tell you how I help my clients who are severely traumatized, severely anxious, and to build this skill without going back into trauma land. And also, I have lots of clients that are ready to go back there, and they're ready to go clean up events and do it. So wherever you're coming from, this is an important skill for you to build. Okay. And so I'm going to tune in and talk a little bit to my traumatized clients listening to this, not clients, people. Maybe you're going to be clients, who knows? But I want to talk to you if you are incredibly traumatized, and this skill, and you know that this is not for you, number one, off the bat. If you're leaning back, if you're like, not going to painful events. If you're doing that, you know that I'm talking to you. If you are afraid of pulling up repressed memories, this next thing I'm going to say is for you. If you're looking back and you know that you could look back there, but you know there are some spots in there that are tens, that if you were to go there and work through those memories, you'd be dealing with an intensity of 10 emotionally. We're not going back there. Okay. And so, but I still want you to build this skill. And so, what I'm going to tell you to do is stay in the present. Stay in the present moment. We all have experiences in the present moment that don't go fabulously, that hurt our feelings, where we feel like we've fallen short, where we feel emotionally like we're afraid or we're embarrassed or humiliated. So you got plenty to work from right here in the present. And the thing is that what happens when you work on the present, and this is for everybody because we're going to use this skill everywhere, is that no matter what you work on, all roads lead in. All roads lead into who you are, where you are right now. And all of it is the same stuff. It's just, can you tolerate this wherever you can tolerate this? So when you're working on the present, don't think that you're missing out on some great healing because you can't go back to the past. No, this stuff will lead you straight to healing the past stuff up. And not only that, but you'll build your skills right here and you'll build your confidence. And all of a sudden you say, I think I could take on that stuff. Or sometimes people say, I think I could, there's one of those I could take on a bit. And when you feel that way and you start to lean forward, that's when it's time. That's when your subconscious, your body is saying, let's rock. And until that happens, don't go back there, period. Okay. And so we're going to wait for that to turn on. And that's a fun time, but it's fun too just to be working in the present because you're going to watch yourself. And I'm going to talk to you about what happens here. So if you're somebody who's going to stay in the present, you can also go out to the future. If you've got anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, you can project yourself out there in the future and create all sorts of terrible scenarios that make you feel terrible and make you feel awful. This is one way to address that as well. Okay, and it's all taking you to the root. It's just different ways to get to the root and different ways to do the healing work that needs to get done. Okay, and there's more strategies after this, so build your skill so you can move to the next one. Okay, this strategy, I'm talking to everybody now. We're back. This strategy, the first strategy is like if you have a mountain of work to do, it's like doing the work with a spoon. And that's great. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get to this stuff? Yeah, but it's moving. And your brain really will take that little spoonful and keep doing a little bit more work. This strategy here is like taking a truck and taking stuff out and getting it through your healing pathways. And so you can really get a huge amount of work done just by this strategy. And this is also a strategy I learned from an EMDR training and emotional freedom techniques. I will overlap this for you because I like to do that. And when we work for events, we have to figure out the way that works best for each individual person. There are some people that are verbal processors. They need to be talking to be accessing their prefrontal cortex and getting that on. There's other people that need to be thinking and need to be seeing and need to be visualizing. And there's other people that need to go into their body. So I'm going to give it to you like this. Here we go. So when you're working on an event, what's going to happen here is there's a beginning and an end. Any event. Let's say I had an argument with my husband this morning. There was a beginning and an end. Right? Let's say I had an incident at the playground when I was in elementary school, and I totally did. We all have those incidents. And there's a beginning and an end. That's all. That's all we're looking at. We're going to take that little chunk out, and we're going to put it right in front of us, and we're going to get to work on that one. Nothing else. Now, when you're doing this, your brain, it will, especially as it starts healing, it will start making associations and it'll want to bring all this stuff in. And it'll say, oh, this same thing happened in this memory, this memory, and this memory. And that's awesome. But just write those down because we're not going in there. If you start to do that, you'll start scrambling around. You're going to do a lot of work, kind of like the messy house problem. You're in there, you're cleaning, and you're going everywhere. You're starting, you're stopping, you're not finishing anything, and the house looks worse off than it did before you started. And so that can happen during this work. And so that's why you're going to stay right here in this event. And write the events down that are coming up that are associated, and work on them when you want to. Now, the exception to this rule is if the timeline of the event that comes up is earlier. And if you're working on an event and your brain says, hey, but what about this one? We had the same thing happen earlier. Now there you might want to follow that one because you're getting closer to the origin, right? But exceptions again, if you're getting there, you might not want to go follow because maybe you're going into too intensive trauma. And so we're not going there. We're going to stay right here. We're going to say, okay, brain, but let's come back here. So you're going to stay in that defined event that you've identified and defined. Okay. So now when you do this, this is huge because you're helping your brain move through something that it didn't get to fully process before. It was so painful that it couldn't move it through the healing pathways. Your survival system came on and said, that's too painful. It's going over here in my dungeon or in quarantine, and it can't come out. No one can touch it. And your inner healer is like, but I need that. But I need that. And so it needs to go in there because these events that happen in the past, present, or in the future, they hold for us subconscious material. They hold for us emotional and mental and subconscious nutrients that we need to process. And they also create like areas in our brain. I'm telling you stories, but listen to me. I mean, because I don't have I cannot like tech this out for you. But it carries areas in our brain that like these memories are like you hit them and it just on fire, it explodes. And then you learn how to not hit them. You're like, oh, can't go over there because there's a whole fire. Nobody wants to set fire to their brain. And so then you learn, well, let's just put this around it, so that we don't get into the fire zone. And then you'll come in and you build these nice neurotransmitters away from it, right? So you don't get in there and start your brain on fire. But every once in a while you can kind of do that, and then it sets your whole brain on fire. So your brain says, oh, that's a problem. And then it will build an even bigger wall around it. Right? And then so now it's like, okay, now we'll make sure we don't get in there and set our whole brain on fire, but eventually it happens and it starts taking up more space, right? And so the thing is that we need it processed because it keeps growing. Your brain learns. Your brain is learning how to protect you all the time. And so if this stuff is in there, it's just going to keep doing it. And so that's why we need it processed. But the other thing is that your inner healer grabs that up, breaks it down into all these itty bitty little parts. And she just starts going around in your brain and say, ooh, let's put that there. Let's put this here. Let's do this there. And all of a sudden things start weaving together that you never had before. And you're like, oh, and you find yourself doing things that are different because your brain just found the nutrients it needed to make this new little bone over here, this little emotional muscle over here, or this new little thought bridge over there. And all of a sudden you're going places in your brain. And this is important. These are the things we need. This is where we get our system upgrades. This is where we get, where we stop falling into regression patterns. This is where we start to do the things we couldn't do before because we had a mental block. Okay, and so it's so important that we resolve these things because your brain is looking for them. And let me tell you what, this part of your brain, you don't want that part not satisfied because she is neurotic and she will drive you nuts because she's like, are we there yet? Can we have that yet? Can I have this? What about this? And remember that memory? I really would like to work on that. I'd like to work on that memory, please. Can I work on that? Oh, let me go find it. Let's bring it up. But every time it's brought up, there's fire. And so then you have to learn these tricks to get her to never go there. And that's a whole nother dysfunction. This is a mess. So we can take all that stuff apart by just solving this problem. Going to that event with her because she wants to go there and she will take you right there in your sleep while you're awake. She is working hard to get that. And so we're just going to cool everybody off and just go there with her because that will help. And so anyway, once that's resolved, your whole system reorganizes. And a lot of times this will happen in the background. You can watch it. If you do this enough times, you'll start to notice these things happening. And if that feels really good because it's just reorganizing and it kind of feels like, you can just watch it and don't intervene. Like they're doing great. They're moving all the furniture around in your brain. Don't get involved. You're not as smart as them. It's just true. You're just not as smart as your brain. And so, and then if you're using this part of the brain while she's working, it's really confusing. Stay out of that. Just let it happen. If you start to notice the furniture is rearranging and people are getting stuck and thoughts are looping and there's more emotional pain involved, that's when you want to help out your system, because it's stuck and it would benefit your health. That kind of takes us back into week one. The first skill you want to build is helping your brain in the moment. And so if you build that while you're working through events, you're really creating a lot of shifting. And then that first strategy that you build will be right there to help you finish any processes and help your brain continue the work, because this skill is to process an event. Okay? And we don't do this one first because you're going to need the first skill. You're going to need to know how to take care of yourself in the event that healing an event creates some emotional backlash or problems, or or your system needs help finishing the projects. You'll be able to fall back on the first strategy to be able to complete that. Okay, so I need to, the heater is on from above now, and I need to go turn that off too. Hold on one second. Okay, all right, so where we're at now is the event. So you're going to work on the event. And Haley, thank you for letting me know that this makes total sense to you, because that helps. Because I want to be thorough. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now what you know from right here, what we've talked about, is you're going to work on one event, a beginning and an end. And I don't want this to be very long. Just short event. Most trauma happens in a very short time frame. Most. Okay, if you have a trauma that took days and weeks, I want you to break it down to one chunk, one piece. Okay, and that's a skill, but this is all part of the same thing. So decide what that will be and what that is. Okay, so now you're loading up your event and you're paying attention to it. That's the first piece, and then the second piece is the intervention. Now, this is many of the skills there are many different, it doesn't matter what intervention you use, it matters that you resolve this fully. And so, the 4 interventions that I rely on completely is emotional freedom techniques, thought-filled therapy, EMDR, and energy medicine. And so those are the ones in my toolbox. There's a lot of skills in there, a lot of interventions in there. And so those are the ones I'm pulling from. There are other ones. And if you're skilled in one, try it, use it. It doesn't matter. Resolve this event. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is, and a couple of styles to do this is, you can tell us the story anywhere you start to feel intensity, emotional intensity. You're just going to pause your movie and you're going to look right there and you're going to use your intervention. You're going to tap with it. Okay. And then you're going to move on to the next one whenever you feel like the intensity is down to a 0. Your job here is to bring the emotional intensity down to a 0. That's your only job. You don't have to figure out what sense it makes. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to give words to it. You don't have to speak it. You don't have to do anything like that. Your job is to keep tapping until the intensity of the thing is down, of the event. Because what happens is your inner healer can't get into the event until the pain is out. And so, because the survival center won't let her. And so, because it's concerned that if there's pain, you're not going to survive. And so to meet the need and the desire of your survival center, we are going to take the pain out. And then once the pain is out, your survival center says, go ahead on in. You can have it. Come on. And I think it just like goes to get its little people and moves the whole cart over here into your prefrontal cortex. She says, oh my gosh, this is great. And then she goes in there and she like sets it together, right? If any pain is found during this process, you're going to know. And then you're going to use an intervention, like I taught you in the first skill set. You're going to use emotional freedom techniques. That's what I'm doing right here. But any of them work for this. Okay, so Haley says, my way of getting the intensity to come down is simply to avoid. Okay, that is, you're talking about your way of getting the intensity to come down is simply to avoid. What you're doing is you're eliminating the intensity of your current experience, but not in the event. You cannot eliminate the pain of an event by avoiding it. That's just not the process that the brain goes through. But when you avoid, what you're doing is you're getting yourself out of distress, and that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But you need to know that that is a strategy to keep you well and safe, and it's a retreating strategy. And in war, that's valid, because you need to be able to make it to the next battle. But if you know these things, you can really dance with them. Because if you get to a place where you're working on something, you're working through an event and you're using your tools and and all of a sudden you're like, I'm done because it's too intense. Good. Run away, flee, watch your movies, have your bowl of ice cream, do whatever it is you do, because you need to pick your brain up and move it off of that, because you're done. Your system said, we have done enough work for right now. We're done. Okay, so it's okay to flee, especially in battle. But when you live in fleeing, when you live in avoidance, when you live in dissociation and numbness, and that's when it's a problem. You can't live there a lifetime, you know? And so really you've got to get into these things and get the healing work done. And that's why it's important to build skill number one, because this skill right here is so important. I've had people say that the investment into my program was worth it by the second week. That's huge. That's because of what we're doing. And this is what most people are trained in. And this is fabulous. And there's a lot of work that can get done. It's not the end of it, because there's at least 6 more skills to build. But this right here is so important. And guess what? However many painful experiences you have, that's what you're looking at doing. You're looking at working through each and every one of them if you have to. Now, I'll tell you the truth that the brain does not need you to go through every single one. Once you get enough done, she'll get in there and resolve the rest herself. A lot of times, but there are times when you have to do every single one. And so you need to be prepared. Let's rock. You have 50 events that you need to work through. Let's go. Okay. And there's something else I want to say about that. A lot of times when I do this work, I do this based on function. I don't do this based on let's just clean everything up. I mean, my goal is that people are able to live their lives while we do the work, and they're able, wherever their life is, that's where we want to clear this stuff up. So based on things that they're bumping into in their life, that's where we want to find the events that we can work on right there that will unblock the problem in their life. Like for instance, if they're having panic attacks, can't leave their house, because they're having panic attacks. They have panic attacks in the car. They have panic attacks at work. If wherever they're having panic attacks, that's one of the first things we want to resolve. What is creating this panic attack? And a lot of times an event will pop up. That's the event we want to do, because it serves us to do this, because we got to go in. All roads lead in, and we might as well get some function on while we're doing it. And so that way, when we resolve the panic attacks, now they can drive again. Now they can leave their house. Now, if you've got an anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder, there's going to be something else that happens. Like, for instance, many people can't look at themselves in the mirror. Okay, well, let's go to find those events, and let's clear those events out so you can get your mirror back, right? Some people have an incredibly heavy negative inner critic. Okay, what events are creating that? So then we're going to do that as well. And we're going to get that. So because what happens if their inner critic is gone? We resolve that. That's not normal. You're not supposed to have an inner critic like that. That might be a newsflash, especially if you grew up with an external critic. That might be news, because they're like, well, how am I supposed to? Well, your brain does know how to talk to you in a way that's effective. It's wounded, and it needs to have some healing so it can turn on that function. And start being a great supporter to you instead of a negative criticism. So I do a lot of these things based on the challenges people are bumping into. That's how I know where to go next. Is it's basically, how do we get them the most freedom right now? And that's the keeps being the question. How do we get you the most freedom right now? How do we get you the most freedom right now? I've had clients that are musicians, and they really want to be putting their music out. They want to do this, they want to do that, but they can't because they're emotionally blocked. So what we'll do is we'll layer this, and we'll go after the events, the blocks that are blocking them from their being able to perform or create music or be able to be productive like that. And so, and there's plenty of trauma along the way that leads us back to childhood, in the future, and the present, and we know we've got the win because the path that we created a healing path to the function of being able to be productive musicians and get their music back out there, or to dive into their career. And so I like that style because we could do lots of different ways. We could just do a total scrub down, and I'm with that. But if we have to do work, we might as well also get people freedom and get them empowered to live a life that's in line with their authentic self and their most powerful self, because it's fun. I mean, who wants to sit around and do all this trauma work and still can't do your music? Who wants to sit around and do all this trauma work and you still can't, play with your babies, because all your symptoms are still in your head? No, let's get those out of the way so you can at least have the joy of playing with your babies, or that you can have the happiness of being able to go into the store without wondering if everyone's looking at you and judging you and what they're saying about you. Or maybe you could just be at home and be drinking your coffee and not be thinking about that last thing that you said that you shouldn't have said, or that other time that you shouldn't have said this, and you're always making mistakes. And let's get rid of that stuff, because the more we get rid of where you actually are, the more expansion, the more joy, the more awesome you get to bring in and experience right now. And so that's some of the fun. That's what I'm in this for, is see people live and do and be who they're actually supposed to be, and not be held down by anxiety. And so that's how I choose what events, and that's how I help my clients choose what events they want to work on right now. Sometimes you have so much trauma work to do, it really doesn't matter. Just grab something and go and start working. It's so much better. Like in this work, an ounce of doing the work with an intervention is worth a pound, probably worth 1,000 pounds of thinking about what the next move is. So even if you just get started, you're creating so much more work and healing and inward roads and just all this good stuff. Then if you just, where am I going to start? Where am I going to start? What am I going to do first? It's really just about, let's get it going, right? And with the guidelines in place, present or future, if you've got a lot of past trauma, or if you're ready to go rock that trauma out in the past, go there. Take these events. You make a title of the event, and then you rate how intense it is. And then what you'll do next is you'll see, when you think about this event, where do you feel that in your body? And write this stuff down. You're the secretary for your brain and for these issues. If it's a painful memory and it helps you to not be paying attention to it directly, give it a dumb name, give it a super silly name, or the green carpet, or whatever you want to give it. You don't give it a name like psych in the playground, whatever. Don't be necessarily as specific as that time we traveled to Oklahoma, yeah. So you have some options there that will just help your brain. There's lots of tricks to help your brain. Cannot go into those today, but that's really the skill. And once you build the skill once, then you can do it twice, and you can do it 3 times and 4 times, and you can do it as many times as you need to do it. Okay. And then get your tap on. You could, if you know how to do EMDR and you can do EMDR for yourself, do it. If you're an energy worker and you're working with your chakras and your meridians and your aura about it, do it. If you're a yoga person, and I don't have skills with yoga, but because of the mind-body intervention, I in theory would believe that would also work. You can use, as long as you're doing as long as you're doing a mind-body exercise, you should get results, but I can't guarantee them. I can tell you that if you use the tools that I use, you're going to get results, because I do every time. There hasn't been a symptom yet that I haven't been able to resolve myself in my life or help my clients resolve, because it's just a brain function issue. And once you learn how to help your brain, there's nothing that can stop you. I mean, there's nothing you cannot resolve. There's nothing that can't be eliminated. And it's phenomenal what your brain can do. And then, so anyway, let's see if there's anything else. So you take the event and work through it. So, until you get to the point where you're like, there's two options here. You get to the point where you're just like, you'll feel when you work through an event like this, it doesn't, like, especially if there's trauma, sometimes it's really crisp, or there's really a lot of pain that comes at you. There's lots of different things there, but as you work through it, sometimes the picture will change. If you're visual, it'll become more gray, more fuzzy. You'll feel less connection to it. If there's, you'll look through it and you won't find any more emotional pain or distress. Also, you know that you have resolved the event if your brain just doesn't want to pay attention to it anymore because it's bored with it. There's other times that you have to pay attention to that one, because it can also stop looking at it because it's like, I've had enough. So if your survival center says, this is too much pain, shut this down, and redirects you, and you're off, shopping or something, or, you're looking for some, your bowl of ice cream, that's probably your survival system redirecting you. If you're looking at this, and that means you're not done with it. Okay. If your survival system intervenes, you're not done. So just leave it for next time. Your inner healer already grabbed as much as she needs out of it for now, and you can come back with that, and she'll already have done a lot of wonderful work for you, and then you can get in there and see what's left, and you can help out with that. So there's nothing wrong with having an incomplete event. Caveats to that, but we're not going to get into that right now. So, and if it becomes too intense, I am going to tell you this because it's important. If things become too intense, you're trying to work through something and it's too distressing, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do a mental trick. And one of the easiest mental tricks to do is to imagine a very strong box or a vault, and pick that event up, throw it in there, lock it, and put it in another vault. And watch that happen, because you're doing some subconscious communication with your brain, and it will lock that up for you and make it so that you cannot get into it. And if that doesn't work, you call in some ancestors to sit in front of that door and guard it for you, or your dog. Mentally, we're doing mental gymnastics here. Whatever's right. Take that whole vault, throw it in the ocean. It's your brain. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't understand reality, so you can talk to it and just send it the message. We're not going in there, and that thing's not safe right now. We'll come back for it in a little while. Okay? And you do want to come back for that. You do want to resolve that fully. But that's just a safety mechanism for you. But if you stay in the present with stuff, with events that are not difficult and that are just regular everyday stuff, you should be fine. Okay? Especially if you've built skill number 1, the first skill to build. You should be very fine. If you're not, get the help you need, get the support that you need, because don't stop. Get it, right? Go all the way and resolve this thing. And so the other thing is that you'll know that you've completely resolved an event for now. It's usually pretty permanent, but every once in a while we'll be working somewhere else, and the brain will bring us back to the same event. And so that just means it wants to do another layer of work. But for the most part, about 90%, 95% of the time, once you get through an event and your inner healer gets bored with it, and she's just like, I'm done here. I want to go find this other thing that I was looking at. If she lets go of that lock on there, because she's super focused, once she's done, she'll let it go, and she's done with it. And so you'll notice you're just bored with it. You don't want to really, yeah, it happened, yeah, whatever. That's a good sign that she's done. And usually if she wants something worked on, she's not moving. She's going to be right there looking at it. And you're going to try to lose focus, and you're going to try to move on. And she's going to be like, no, we're here. And so for her to let go of that means a lot has happened. She's satisfied, and we can move on. Okay. And she might want to come back. We'll come back with her. But that's really where we're at with that. And that's really the deal. Once you build that skill, then do it twice, like I said, and then go after it, right? If you're somebody who doesn't have an anxiety disorder, a couple of these is going to be awesome. You're going to notice a huge upgrade. But if you're somebody that has an anxiety disorder, there's a lot of work to do. And this is one of the reasons why I have my clients do 2 hours a day of this work. This week, we hunt down events and we rock them out. And we do as much work as possible. I have them do work between sessions. We get on our coaching call and I'm looking through stuff. What worked, what didn't work, which event are you on now? How far did you get in this one? How far did you get in that one? Okay, this is our new game plan. Let's go. Okay. And then that client will go do whatever it is that she's doing brain work wise. And then when she's ready for more coaching, she'll jump right back on because we're there for 2 hours. And, and then we're just working through the stuff. And then we go off between sessions and they're working. They're doing this stuff. And then we meet again a second time during the week. And then we're doing the same thing. Where are we at? What are we looking at? What are you noticing? What changes have you made? What inner world transformations have you made? What are you seeing out in the world? 1, that's fun. 2, we're firing up the right part of the brain that does the healing work. And the stronger that part gets, the better, because we've got a lot of work to do. And 3, lets me know where we're at, how things are moving, what her brain is doing. And so, and that's what I do over here. And so I'm sharing that with you so that you can do that. Either 1, get my support to do that, or 2, just understand there's a lot of work to do. Let's do it. Okay. And so you can figure out ways that if you just stay in the present, you're still going to get so many great results. And if you can bounce around, great. Follow your brain, help it out. Okay. And if you have questions, comments, feel free to post them here. And if you have questions now, go ahead and do that. I'll take them. Let me make sure I'm not missing any. And yeah, so this is one of the components I address in my 8-week small group intensive program for women who are ready to eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And this is a lot of what it looks like. And I'm trying to be all techie over here. And so I have included in the description of this more information about my program. And you can get on my mailing list. I've added that link as well. And yeah, and if the working with me and my program really resonates with you, go look at that. See if it pulls you in more, if it gives you more of that, yes, this is for me to do, and go ahead and direct message me. Or if you're somebody who wants to jump on a call, you can go and schedule yourself for a free consultation with me, a free hour session or 45-minute session by going to rachelmcleod.com/call, and we'll talk. Okay. And everybody, I'm so excited that you're doing this, and be safe out there. Don't take any extra risks. Listen to yourself. Don't push in too hard. Less pain, no pain equals more gain. So, and if you haven't read that post that I put out there, please read that. You really don't want to create pain with this. You want to keep things, and if you can do more brain tricks to keep the pain low, you're going to get even more healing done. If you're doing stuff you do not want to do, your brain and your subconscious mind and your survival center is going to kick your behind. And we don't need that. We really don't. So take it nice and easy, and really try and match the speed that you want to do. Every work that you do is permanent. If you get half of an event done, that's permanently done. Your brain will run with that. And then you'll be ready. She'll load you up to finish the rest of it, because she'll be up in there like, we didn't get all of it. I wonder why we didn't. And she's all up there trying to figure out the next thing. And then she said, "Oh, we should try this." And the next thing you know, you'll get this. "Oh, we should try this," and you'll be right back in there and you'll try it. So, anyway, I hope that helps. And I would love your feedback because I'm nosy. I want to know what symptoms you're eliminating. I want to know what you're able to do now that you weren't able to do. I want to know when you hear that inner critic being positive. I want to know. So feel free to share that. And that's all. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.